It just turned on right in the middle of my beatboxing. All right, good morning. Woo, it'll be great fun. So we've got a couple things. If you haven't received the things. So you walked in late. So so we're gonna just walk through real quick information we've shared before, but want to make sure we are very clear. But then we're gonna open it up for questions. Jake, thank you. So I'm gonna hand this over to Nick. Nick is our finance chair. He is the one. I was gonna make a slide that said, Nick, the one for whom the memorial electric bill is named, but I didn't get it done. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm Nick Ficini. I'm your finance chair. Jake, do you have the 2026 budget total PowerPoint? There we go. There's our budget, and it's also in the handout. I'll bottom line this thing. $615,000. I cut, not the committee, I cut $35,000 out of that budget. It was about $640,000. And I cut $35,000 out of it, or $650,000, I guess it was. I'm using my math. Last year, our budget was $634,000, $24,000, $620,000, $23,000, $640,000. Back in 22, $622,000. We have a smaller budget than 2022. We still gave, I did not touch staff parish. They are still getting a 2% raise. Where the majority is in apportionments. Is that up there? Yeah, conference ties. That was supposed to be $28,000 for 26. It was $22,000 for 25, and it's $20,000. And on this second sheet that we handed out, if you look about 2/3 of the way down, or the bottom, you can see what our apportionment is supposed to be. A question? Interrupt me anytime with questions. Which reminds me, someone gave me a list of questions. Where are they? How are we going to meet? Well, I think the question was, how are we going to meet our apportionments? Well, we got a letter from our district superintendent back in November saying that all the churches need to get all their apportionments up to date by the end of last year. Well, 47,000 that we need or something like that, there's no way. That's the only fat in the budget. There's absolutely no fat. Questions? What else do you have in slides there? Okay. There we go. Pledges. 82 pledges for going here into 26 for $434,000. We have roughly 180 giving units, 180 families. So less than half made pledges. Last year we had pledges of about 103 people, but remember last year you didn't have to put your name on the pledge card. So there was no accountability. You like no accountability? Yeah, thank you, Kurt. That's up to you. Go ahead.
So the reason for doing the names, what we ran into was we had several people who put in more than one. They didn't realize they had. So we ran an estimate budget off of some people who put in, because they put one in online and gave one in person, but some of those we just couldn't track. So for planning purposes, it makes our life easier to have names attached to it. Plus, then we can communicate more clearly. That's the only reason for it. And we'll go from there. Right. So, and I understand that you having, restate the question, that us knowing who gave what, or who planned to give what, is between the individual and God. And I say yes. For us to plan, it makes our life easier if you let us know who you are. So it makes it easier for us to have those answers. I saw two hands over here. Jasmine's got the microphone.
One more additional comment to that question. It's a legitimate question. We enjoy the gifts. We enjoy the pledges. But do you do the same thing for your electric bill?
Yes, Linda.
I was just going to say, you could probably say how few individuals actually see a name and an amount together.
So that would be one. The total number of people who see the name and the amount together is one. And that would be Holly, our finance person. And let me be real frank and honest with, if you have worry about her saying anything, there are things, yeah, I see Chris Muir back there going, nope, not gonna happen. So, yeah, Pam.
Well, probably another thing that's not going to happen, but I think that at least in this last few years, a lot of the people in this parish have become, that's not the right term, but in this parish have become poorer than they were for whatever reason. And I'm noticing here, and I know that this is probably not a something that could be changed at all, but I believe in tithing, I really do. I believe there are a lot of blessings that come with it, which not everybody does, but they think of it just as a law. But I see here, and in years past, that if the tithe, or even part of the tithe, was withheld that goes to the general fund, the INUMC, you would be in the black. Do you see what I'm saying? At least.
So I want to make sure that if we had paid zero toward the conference, we would have been in the black.
Well, not in the black, but you'd been closer.
We would have, yes. And the reason that we do pay as much as we can. So before I got here, the number was zero because of where the congregation was at that point. And when Dave Byram got here, he got the church up to, I want to say it was 10,000 for the 2019, and we went to 20,000 after that. That's asking me to remember before COVID numbers, and that's a lot. So we got up to a third of our tithe, which we had planned to continue to go more. And in my conversation with our superintendent, I informed him there were all of these things stacked against this congregation that we've been working through. And there isn't our ADS, John Randall, is here, and John said, I get it. And John has been communicating with the conference and advocating for you for the place where you're at. And John recognizes that as our giving is partially down because some of y'all used to give 50 a week are now giving 30 a week because, let me think, groceries. Yeah, groceries. Do I understand that? You better believe it. You know why? Because guess who else buys groceries? Mm-hmm. I do. And this has been my conversation with the conference that we have to. Since 1999, I've been having a conversation with the conference, looking forward to the day where we were going to have trouble funding ministry because I could see the tightening of the labor market. And with the tightening of the labor market means it costs more to get what you want, right? Does that make sense? Supply and demand. And I also could foresee the healthcare reality we were facing.
And it just may be that it's a fact that if you were serving a poorer parish, or however you, whatever your phrase is, that might be a reality.
So one of the things that we're talking about, thank you, great, yes, because as a congregation that struggles, we're not the only one, okay? Please understand, as a congregation, you are not the only one who's going, oh snap, money. We're not it. This isn't just here, okay? What we're trying to do and what we're wanting to do is how do we together live responsibly? How do we communicate clearly? Because I don't want you getting surprised by, okay, here are some of the choices we've got to make, okay? But I also want to shift the focus from a budget line sheet to how are we living as faithful disciples? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because, okay, I'm not being judgmental, I'm just gonna be real blunt. The one person who knows those names and numbers at one of my churches, her name was Judy, and she came up to me one day because that church was having trouble meeting its budget. And they have responsibilities for their pastor, like paying mileage. And they decided to collect a love gift to pay my mileage. So in her words, quote, we could hit two birds with one stone. And I said, please understand, that's not a love gift, that's your responsibility. And her response was, well, Kurt, you gotta understand that people are on fixed income. And I said, I get that. Guess who else is on a fixed income? Me. Because the congregation sets my salary, and that's what I get. And I said, you know, when you do this, and she said, yes, but some people gave $20 a week years ago, and it might have been generous then. And I said, then how are we helping people understand their thankfulness to God for the generosity God has given? And her answer was, what does that have to do with this conversation? At which point I said, evidently nothing, because it's not going to go anywhere, because you don't get it. When we're talking, this is not just about budget. What is more important to me is that we're talking about how do we live in a faithful response to God? How do we live in joyful abundance? Which means if we're giving what we can, then when we look at those numbers and we see we are got a projected loss, instead of feeling guilty about it, what do we need to do to live responsibly? Do you see the difference? If we're not giving what we can, then we need to deal with that with ourselves and God. That is a conversation between you and God. But if you're already giving what you can, then how do we as a congregation say, okay, what are our priorities and how do we live into those in a way that is responsible and ethical and cares for the people of our church and our community needs? Do you see that that's a different conversation? I'm gonna give this. Don't be sorry.
I just, when I wanted to expand on the light bill comment, because to me it's very important. I do use a budgeting program to keep my home running, and I have to have that. I'm gifted to know what my income is, and I rely on that to keep my electric bill, to keep my grandchild in activities, to keep insurance, all of these things. And I, just speaking from me, I heard what you're saying about the name. It's important that we don't have a duplicate. If if I think that I work for IU Health, if they've sent me a paycheck that's 2 of them, let's say, I need to know that, you know, so that I can plan my budget, that there was an error in income. And I likewise look at this as the house of God. And in order to be able to keep the doors open, my family really enjoys the blessing from being part of this congregation. In order to keep that flowing and the doors open, it is important to be able to plan on a budget, to know what you're working with. So I understand that. I appreciate the work and standing up here. It is between my and God what I can give. Likewise, to keep God's house running, it's important for you to know what's coming in as concrete as possible. So I kind of look at that a little different when it comes to a pledge card with my name on it. My tithe and my gift is still between God and I, but having that knowledge of what to anticipate helps keep his house open.
In just a second, before, I want you to know, when we get those pledge cards, that's an estimate of giving. I have never in my ministry had somebody who didn't meet their pledge and gone to them and said, "What's wrong with you?" Never had that conversation. I understand life happens. I understand that nobody goes, "I think I'm going to give you $55,000 a year," when they make $4,000 a year. They're not doing that. People are giving their best guess. And we understand things happen. So yeah, there's the grace.
Well, I'm just curious about the conference giving. It's, I understand we have to pledge something or we have to give something, but where's that money going? I mean, it seems like $20,000 we're just giving, okay, here, you do with it what you want. And I think that $20,000 would be better spent here.
Don't get me started. Yeah, they had their 2026 budget in June of last year. I don't know about you. I can't budget that far in advance. 2 punchlines. One, they're projecting a $1.8 million loss for 2026 out of a budget of, no, 10 million. And the other thing that caught my eye, in June of 2025, they projected interest income for 26 of $400,000. Now, interest rates have gone down, bottom line. We're not earning 5% like we were. This church was earning 5% interest back in 24. What are you earning on your savings accounts? And we don't put money into stock or anything like that. So they're projecting a $1.8 million loss for 26. Where's the money? Okay, there.
So you've got, for every dollar that is spent, some of it is going to stuff that happens in the annual conference. About, I want to say 70 cents of every dollar stays within the state or within the jurisdiction. So for that, you're looking at salaries for administrative staff, salaries for district superintendents. And while that may not seem important, having worked with people who have connectional polities that are not, or polities that are not connectional, that are more congregation-based. Well, let me put it this way. When we had a bunch of group churches disaffiliate, where's Pastor Bruce? Where is Pastor? Hey, Pastor Bruce, who called you to ask you to be their pastor because they couldn't find one because they didn't have a system that helped them connect to pastors? Right. Stockwell. So guess who called Stockwell and said, "I understand you're looking for a pastor because you all disaffiliated and you don't have that network that those dollars pay for." Here's what I, as a fellow Christian, am willing to do with you. I'll train your people to preach. They didn't call me back. But I did what was right. I did what was right because that's what. So those dollars, they pay for developing ministries. Brianna's Hope got started originally from grant money from the conference that helped pay for that. Those are things that most of that goes to. Another 30 cents goes to the global church. Like 1 cent goes to the jurisdiction, which is our region. But the rest go to the global church to help in areas where the congregations are, one, growing ridiculously fast, and but they don't have the financial resources to back that. And so it's going to help their infrastructure, help there, because we believe we're in this together. We are a global church, and what we do here does matter in Zimbabwe, does matter in South America, does matter in Eastern Europe. And so there's that connection. And though, yes, there are things we could do with that money, I would rather send 20 cents per dollar to help them train people there so that they stay there and do ministry in a context they understand, rather than paying 40 cents per dollar to bring them over here to train them in our ways, which may or may not translate back there. So it's a give and take, right? This is part of what's going on with us as a country, right? It'd be better for us to take care of us. And one of the things we know historically is when we as a people give generously abroad, those monies do more to promote peace than just focusing on us. So, yes, there is a seminary. Is it in Zimbabwe? It is, isn't it? Isn't Africa University there? Is it there, or is it? Thank you. Okay, thank you. I was looking to our conference person help me, and yes, it is. Yeah, in fact, monies from this church help build that. So I saw Becky's hand up, so.
As far as apportionments, the last church I was at in Lowell, a number of years ago, decided to pay their apportionments in full, even though it was a hardship at the time. And that church has been blessed beyond words. And it was hard for those first several years to pay those apportionments in full. Mm-hmm. And after a number of years, then they still pay their apportionments in full.
Right.
And I can just say, if any of you pay your tithes in full, you know it is hard at times, but you are blessed. You find that it happens, and somehow you get through, and you are blessed because of it. And that's the same way with the church. If we pay our apportionments, and if we can ever get to the point we pay it in full, we will be blessed, and I can guarantee it.
Indiana United Methodist back in 24, if you drilled into their website, you could find what every church paid on their apportionments, their membership, their general fund giving apportionments. So we have to do a report. For 25, it was on there. I saw it. I forgot to download it, and it was gone. I couldn't find it again. Now, a sidebar, our annual conference is at St. Luke's in Indianapolis. We had it there, and there was no air conditioning. Yeah, but the joke is getting better, Kurt, is that, and they decided, the pastor said we decided to pay our apportionments instead of fix the air conditioning. Well, 2 days before that was Jim Irsay's funeral. Do you think all the NFL owners liked being in a church with no air conditioning? Give me a break. I don't believe that. But that's a personal observation. Hey, can we move on to the next slide, Jake? Or you You're going to take. Okay, I'll make this quick. You have another handout on the other side, but a little bit more detail. For the past 3 years, we had a profit in 2024. Why? Because we had people give in 24 for their 25 budget or for their 25 commitment. They gave it in 24, but they wanted it credited to 25. So that's the reason we had a $49,000 profit, income, whatever you want to call it, and also back in 24, interest rates were 5%, and we had money in savings compared to 3 now. Our expenses have been under budget all these years too, even trustees. Our utilities have been under budget. What happens this year or not with this winter, who knows? But this church is a good steward of your spending money. Very good steward. You know, we've had the problems with the narthex, so on and so forth. You people have stepped up and give money to PM funding, which helped out a lot. So, quickly, any questions on that back sheet before we turn it over to Becky? Oh, here's Becky.
All right, thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Becky Daigle. I'm fairly new in the church. My husband and I, who's the silent one, as everyone laughs. But we've been here probably 3-4 years. I come from a financial background. I did accounting and businesses. I have spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets, and I adore them. They give me comfort and they give me safety. And it's important that we acknowledge, as Nick is saying, as other people are saying, this is what the spreadsheets tell us. And it's important. And we do need to look at it and understand it and be faithful with it. And I think this church has been that. But we're also people of faith. And God says, look at those numbers, and you're scared, just like we talked about in that is a spoiler alert for second service, but with the 23rd Psalms, where we're going through tough times, and he's right there. So how do we pull together that faith side and the finance side and really make it what God wants? Kurt has asked me to start forming a group. I've talked to several, and several who have talked today. I will probably be talking to you too. But we want to start a stewardship group. And that's not a fundraising group. If the finances go up, awesome. That's great. But it's understanding, just like you said, when you give to where your treasure is, whether it's your time, your effort, whatever, there's your heart. And as I was talking to Kurt this morning, I was looking at trying to find, because when we say tithe, as those of us who've been in the church forever go, well, that's 10%. And my budget may not be good for 10%. There's no other word that really talks to that. And I don't think God is saying, if you aren't giving 10% of your income, that you're a bad person. I think God's calling you to give what you're supposed to give, whether it is $10 a week and volunteering in a different area or taking care of your kids or your parents. The outpouring of of our thankfulness and trust in God comes out in different ways. So if you're interested in exploring that with us, let me know. And there's some things we're going to talk about that you'll start seeing. We may have a class on budgeting. We may have a class on the Bible study and talking about stewardship. We may be showing more things about what your money is doing. But you're still going to see the spreadsheets. And we're still going to be talking, because I'm also on finance, led by Nick, does a great job. We're still going to be talking about, here's what it takes to put the lights on. And we're going to try to figure out how we pull those two together, because it's hard enough when it's just yourself talking to yourself trying to figure it out. It's a lot harder when it's a group. So if you're interested in helping with something like that, or whether it's on a full-time, not full-time, but a more steady basis, or just kind of hit and miss, let me know. I think God is calling us to move this church in a lot of ways. There's so much heart here. There's so much generosity here. We just need to figure out how we're going to do it.
So I want to make sure that people hear this group is not about going out and doing fundraisers. This group is about helping us develop as a people of faith, a people of trust, a people who express our love for God with the asset management we perform.
In other ways, I mean, tithing to you, my husband and I are very different. He's very different too, in a lovable way. But for me, it's easier to write a check and say, here, Lum, here's money for your homeless shelter. It's harder for him to do that. He suggested many years ago, we need to flip that. He needs to be one that's pushing to give some of the finances, and I may be the one where I'm pushing to my own comfort zone to go help there at Lum. So tithing and stewardship and giving is very different, and it's very individual. So.
Yeah. So we've got about, Aaron Schrader back there in the back. Sorry, I'm sitting down. I've got a whole nother thing to go here, do.
I do have a couple questions.
Yep.
And I guess you or Becky, how many members are there actually in the church?
So there's 180 giving units, but there are, we just did this. Ask me, did I memorize those numbers? No, what I can give you is our average attendance is the more pertinent number. Our average attendance went down for the first time since I've been here last year, other than COVID, because, average attendance is around 240 in person. We were at 255 the year before. And I can tell you how we've lost people. Last year on All Saints Day, when I did the names, I did 17 of the 35 funerals. So not all of those people were people who attended every week, but I will say we also lost at least 3 families because of the political climate we're in. And between the deaths, the people going into nursing homes, and those political realities. And I know John and I have had this conversation, and he's grinning at me right now. Do I feel guilty about losing those people to the political reality? Yes, I do, John. Even if you say I shouldn't, I still do. I still feel bad. And there's nothing you can do about that. Anyway, I don't like people getting upset about stuff, but I also know if we're going to love everybody, we have people who sometimes attend who disagree with how that looks. So the more important number is not the membership, it's the average attendance, and that average attendance is 240 in person, and we're still working on online. One of our numbers says around 40, one says 140, and I know that's a wide swing, but it just depends on how we count and when. So, okay, that was your first question. Did I answer it?
That's correct, you did.
Okay.
You're 1 for 1 right now.
Yes. Somebody take my place.
The other thing I think that we have to realize that we're here for God, and He has a mission for us to fulfill.
Yes.
But in that mission, we're also, and it's a terrible way to describe it, a business. And we must have a cash flow to maintain keeping the doors open and the lights on.
Yeah.
And I think, as Nick had previously stated about the stewardship and doing well with the money and everything, and how we spend our monies and watch what we're doing. I was a trustee before I came here at another large church, And I noticed that trustees, money-wise, have one of the bigger budgets, except for staff parish. And my question is, have we, or being good stewards of the funds, do we yearly go out and solicit vendors,
Bids.
price-wise, especially for the insurance and the heating and cooling?
So with our HVAC, we do stick with the same one because we have so many, they're interconnected, and they 23 air conditioners and furnaces. So we have had conversations, but Anderson's has continued to, one, do quality work, and they are familiar with our system. So trustees continue to have conversations about finding, do you want to answer that? I'll let you answer that. Since I'm 1 for 1, I don't want to ruin my records.
Yes, sometimes we do get other estimates, but like he said, we've had the same people in here working on things, and they know how it's put together, and they can take care of it, I think, better than somebody coming in new or wanting to change things. We've got several fairly talented people on the trustees, and we've been doing quite a bit of work trying to save money here and there. It's not lots, but you know, $100 here, $100 there, $500 on this, and we had an issue this morning with one of our furnaces that we've already had to nip in the bud.
Thank you, Emily, for going upstairs.
Was that helpful, or okay?
Trustees is usually under budget. What they get is the Narthex, the gas leak of today. Insurance has gone up. Hasn't your insurance gone up? But they've been under budget for utilities for a number of years. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, and remember, we have a $25,000 deductible.
Well, as the ladies in my I say mine, it's not my Bible class, they know I like to talk, and give me a microphone and look out. David and I have had ad nauseum conversations about this problem, and we talk about it, and we talk about it, and I read, all your fault, all your fault. And this is my opinion, of course, obviously. As far as David and I are concerned, we are running an unrealistic budget, and that needs to change. If he and I were running a bad budget, we would be in trouble. We all know that. We work with a budget. And so then you have to say to yourselves, okay, how are we going to do something about this budget that is not realistic? I know that there are times that we've looked at each other and said, it's mac and cheese. It's mac and cheese. It's not steak anymore. It's not, it's barely hot dogs anymore. It's mac and cheese. And we've been willing to do that and have done that in our early years when we were poor. But but to your point, we have always, for as long as I can remember, tithed. We are big, strong believers and have been blessed in so many ways I cannot begin to tell you. And we are, and we have done that. But even that, we still need to be responsible. This church needs to be responsible. Nick, I'm going to say gently that I don't think that the church is being a good steward to my money. I feel like we need to make hard changes here. Hard ones. And a lot of times, they're not pleasant. People's feelings get hurt, things, then you divide people. We certainly don't want those kinds of things, but hard things need to happen. We're running a 65 staff parish budget. I have never been to a church, and we haven't been here very long, but we've been churchers for a long, long time. I grew up in a United Church of Christ church, And we went to Emmanuel United Church of Christ for a lot of years. And I have never been to a church that has so many people get paid to do something that we used to always do for free. For free. People would call me up and say, Joe, would you be liturgist this Sunday? Sure. Would you do this? Sure. Would you, work in the nursery? Sure. Would you do all these things? We did it for free because we love God, and we also see it as maybe a time of that's our talent that we're giving, not just our treasure. David and I were pretty good at giving both. I'll pat myself on the back, and you too, sweetie. But we gave both. We gave our time, we gave our treasures, we gave all of that because that's what we wanted to do. We love God. We love God, but God expects us to be sensible. He expects us to give. I'm happy, any Sunday to get up there and, read the call to worship and do whatever needs to be done. Call me, please. But we pay people to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take the, mac cheese off of anybody's plate. That's the last thing I want to do. But we could maybe see and look at those things of how can we cut from that budget? Not just, and I have to say I'm a little resentful from time to time of hearing that give more, give more, give more. Well, we do give a lot. And I don't think that is always the, solution of giving more and then making me feel, guilty about it. And then my last pet peeve, and then I'm going to sit down, is that I believe that the church should be more benevolent. We need to honor our commitments. We need to, as a church, give to places in town like LUM and stuff, and we don't. We don't help our community. Lord, help us carry Christ into our community. I've heard you say it 1,000,000 times. But do we? I mean, David's been on the financial. He was just off of that. I don't know. I think there are some things that we need to do. And one other thing, I thought I was done, but I'm not. Early learning. Are they independent? Maybe there was a time that we could help out a lot, but are they pulling their weight? I mean, I was an elementary school teacher forever. I know, and I'm so sorry. Okay, that's all I got to say.
So those are good questions. So I want to answer. I don't have time right now because we have a whole nother service we have to get to. I really appreciate your conversation. We're going to wrap up right now. There will be another one of these. Please bring your questions. Please do send them in, but we're out of time. We will answer those questions. I will say early learning is doing better now than they were ever before. We're almost there. We can adjust service, extend this if you want. Oh, I was looking going, I need to get myself ready more than anything. And we do need to start at 10:45 because that's what we do to honor one another. Can you pray us out? Would you please? That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Let's pray.
O Lord our God, you are mighty, you are awesome. You have always taken care of us as individuals and as a corporate body. And we thank you, Lord God. And we are facing tough times. And we are facing those difficult conversations that none of us wants to have. But Lord God, we know that you're in it and that your will be done, not ours. There are answers, and all we have to do is listen to you. You've told us what to do, and give us the strength, the patience, the peace to go forward in your ministry. Amen.
All right, we will hold another one of these. We had planned on one in August. We may do one quicker. Thank you very much. Please do let your questions be known. Make sure you communicate that. Appreciate you. God bless you.